Can you hear me?
I can.
My name is Masibe. Thank you so much. Counselling Psychologist. And apart from that, I do a lot of youth mentorship and counseling of the country. I've been all over this country in most particular places trying just to mentor young people and just help them find their identity and purpose. And I'm also a minister of the Word of God, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much for that, and we are glad to have you with us today. So to get us started, Miss Mercy, mental health is becoming a growing concern among young people. What are the most common challenges you see today, especially in communities like Kajiado?
Okay. Indeed, it is true that mental health is becoming a challenge, especially among young people. And especially in Kajiado, as we are working towards Beyond the Manyatta, which is educational expo forum, we are looking forward to addressing mental health, teenage pregnancies, and also unemployment. So the reason why we have this issue of mental health is because we have come to realize due to the high rating of unemployment, which is economical, we also have challenges within the social aspect also that bring challenges for mental health, like how the young people are relating with each other. And so we
Yeah.
are looking forward to ensuring that our young people within Kajiado County don't come under pressure because of this unemployment, which is so rampant in this nation, and we help them maintain their mental wellness. And by the way, by mental wellness, it's whereby we are saying that one person, an individual is able to have a balance between their emotional and their mind connectivity. So you have a balance in how you think and how you react or how you act when situations come to you. So basically, our main drive is to ensure that our young people are mentally healthy. Can they think rationally? Can they be able to control their emotions? Can they be able to stay away from issues like drug and substance abuse due to the anxiety and the pressure that is coming about due to unemployment? Can they be able also to form healthy groups among themselves, not necessarily so much into technology like the phones and videos and any other IT device that may come with it, but they can be able to have a healthy lifestyle that enable productive members of the society. So those are some of that's number one why we are doing this. So number two challenges that we have with them is we have drug and substance abuse, which is becoming rampant among our young people, and it's a phenomenon that has been growing within the area. Initially, we thought because Kajiado, especially the Ma people, we had this culture shock of having them being a bit reserved, but as the country continues to grow, we are seeing the country being opened up and it's becoming more of a cosmopolitan place. So what this means is that there are a lot of newcomers within the society. And in each and every cultural setup where now you start having other people apart from that culture, you expect to have what we call culture shock. People start adapting to some cultural practices that they have not been practicing before.
Mhm.
So drugs are becoming a trend there, you know, and also teenage pregnancies has also become very rampant, and also a number of teenage girls, especially the girls, drop out of school, and also other economical issues that make the family strained. So we have lifestyle diseases like blood pressure, we have BP. Also, it is interesting to know even cancer can be as a result of unresolved mental issues. The more the body keeps on becoming stressed, the more these cells start multiplying and the more people become cancerous. So we cannot say there is any caveat as to who cannot be mentally ill within a society, be it the young people among the Kajiado community or even the elderly. Anybody is prone to be mentally ill. And that's why we are taking this opportunity to sensitize the Kajiado community why mental health is important. Over to
Wow,
you,
that is
Blessing.
very insightful. Thank you so much. So,
You're welcome.
building on that,
Mhm.
um, many young people struggle in silence. So, what are some of the early signs that parents, teachers, or even friends should look out for?
Indeed, it is true. Many people struggle in silence, and this is because of the stigma. This is because of the stigma that comes with mental health. The stigma being that people think simply because someone has mental issues, it's either that you have gone mad, you cannot think well, you are not able to
Yeah.
dress properly. Those are some
Yeah.
of the insinuations that we have about mental illness. So we expect to see people collecting papers huko kwa barabara, or sorry, collecting papers kwa barabara, for those who cannot understand Hebrew, is many people picking papers on the roadside or shouting or speaking. But mental health can also be a silent killer. And some of the signs that, especially for young people, we need to start looking out to is once a very vibrant young person, all of a sudden they start becoming quiet and withdrawn. That should send a signal. And it is interesting, even when young people are going through depressions, at this particular time, even those who become suicidal, especially by the way, we have high rising numbers of young people who are dying through suicide nowadays. It's
Yeah.
because they feel that suicide is the only way out. So when we start seeing these young people becoming withdrawn, isolated, we need to start asking ourselves what could be happening, and also make a way of reaching out to them. Also, grooming, especially the dressing. It's very easy to judge a young person and say, they're just young people. That's why they are not careful about the way they groom themselves, about the way they dress, about whether they comb their hair, whether they polish their shoes. It is
Yeah.
something that we should take keen interest in. Why the sudden change? Why the lack of interest in wanting to be neat? So we have talked about being withdrawn. We also talked about
Yeah.
grooming, also eating habits. You know, all of a sudden, someone who was not eating, they are all over there eating food that can be eaten by three people. Could we be having an issue of drugs? Could we be having an issue of an eating disorder, what we call binge eating, bulimia, anorexia, whereby young someone starts withdrawing from eating, or someone starts eating and eating for no apparent reason because they feel like there is a void that needs to be filled. And so the only way they can find for solace is overeating. We also have also alcohol. I think alcohol and drug substance abuse is something very common. All of a sudden, someone who was not into drug and substance, they all of a suddenly become a party animal, and they want to keep on being on being high. It can be always being drunk, or they start passing by the we call them the liquor stores within the estates,
Yeah.
and they are starting to become the norm for them to spend there. So those are some of the signs that we can look out, whether they are being withdrawn, where they're becoming also even overly over talkative, if it can be a sign of it. Have they changed even their sleeping patterns? Are they complaining about insomnia? Even for those who are in school, is there issues of bullying, especially in our high schools? Someone there is bullying, bullying, bullying. Don't just say that that child is a bully or that child is unruly or indisciplined. You need to get to the root cause as to why they are bullying each other. And also performance, you see,
Yeah.
performance, if a student has never been among the poor performers, and all of a sudden they start becoming, I'm not saying nowadays we are not having the grading of A plus and B and A, but if you start seeing their competence is becoming a little bit slackened from what they used to have, then you also need to start asking yourself questions as to why they are doing that. So even in high school where we are having boardings, if someone starts evading what we call the preps, if they stop joining other students, or they all of a sudden become discipline issue cases, we need to start looking out for such signs. And probably as we are on that blessing, it is also important that we know that even as we are looking for the signs that we need to be looking for when we are dealing or suspecting that some of our children in schools could be having mental health issues, it is important even for the teachers within the institutions to become, I'm not saying there's a way you become friendly that students can approach you, and there's a way you can put a barrier whereby you are unapproachable. So it is important that we start setting a pace within our schools where students see us as people who they can relate, people they can confide in, and especially confidentiality. If a student, a pupil comes and tells you about their issue, it is important you don't go talking about it with other teachers, and then that child starts becoming a point of discussion. Those are some of the ways that make these students and pupils withdraw from reaching out even to us. And also parents. I know we say as parents, the children should not be entitled to their privacy. And especially from 13 onwards, these are teenagers. You need to be careful about how you talk to them, how you address their issues, because these are people now who are developing and a thinking capacity that can form their own ideology. They form their own theories. They can explain to you why this and this and this happens. They are no longer children. They can see things. They can express themselves. So it is important that we keep their confidentiality, put healthy boundaries, and at the same time become friends, so that when they are starting to face some of these challenges, they can feel very safe coming to us, so that we can be able to talk about such issues. Thank you, bless you.
That is very interesting, especially because many of the young people are not able to recognize the signs early enough. Um, okay, so help me understand, and also the audience. So, how do challenges like teen pregnancies and youth unemployment affect the mental well-being of the young people?
Okay, let me first start with teen pregnancy. I think
Okay.
teen pregnancy is something that can really be a challenge and a problem. Number one, not only to the child or to the teenager who has become pregnant, but also
Yeah.
to the family that this child is coming from. I think it's a circle. It's something that affects the society at large. So we have to first of all understand that when our girls become pregnant at their teenagehood, this becomes a societal problem. This is not something that we should start thinking each other as women and neighbors and saying, oh, mtoto wa nani amekuwa,
Yeah.
the so and so child has become pregnant. Number
Yeah.
one, there's a lot of shame to the parents and to the child. That's a lot of shame, because you see, uh, in their own journey of trying to discover whether they are young women, something just went wrong. I'm not saying we also need to stop looking at it like our children are so innocent. In any case, our teenagers are more sexually active than us. That's just my drawing statistics that are out there. And so once a girl becomes pregnant, it is important not to start pushing blame from one person to another. Because if you start blaming that girl, what you're doing is you're pushing them to condemnation. You're pushing them into guilt tripping. And this guilt tripping is not healthy for this girl and also for the baby that this baby
Yeah.
is carrying now, because we have a scenario of a child carrying another child. So it calls for us as adults to step up, much as we will not want it. We have to step up and see that we are guiding this girl accordingly. So we have a lot of anxiety issues. We also have a lot of shame, which can bring a lot of low self-esteem. So you can imagine a girl who was used to dressing just like a tiny girl. Now all of a sudden her body is growing and she's starting to face some feelings and hormonal changes and emotional changes that she has not been experiencing. So there's a lot of shame and low self-esteem issues that come in play. And also, I think also we can talk about also the trauma that this girl can go through, especially during the labor and childbearing. I know we have this language of talking, especially as Kenyans, where we say, see, akienda kupata mimba alikuwa anajua, sasa hivi acha aende aingie maternity ataweza. But also
Mm-hmm.
understanding that the body of this young girl has not been biologically fully formed for her to be able to give birth, and this can cause a lot of shock and trauma to her. So we need a lot of debriefing for this girl, because we don't want her falling into postpartum stress or depression. So we are talking
Yeah.
about anxiety, shame. We're also talking about possibility of postpartum depression, whereby this girl can go into depression, whereby you see her not being able to take care of the child. And also we need to look at the mental wellness of the family, helping them become a support system for this girl, helping this girl to be shielded from the society, judgmental eyes, and shame. It's good as we become a force of a shelter for this girl, that she doesn't feel shame. But also, this calls for us also to debrief the family and psycho-educate them about the changes, the challenges that this girl may be going through during these times of pregnancy. So when you're also talking about the shame, the anxiety, and also the PTSD or the post-traumatic stress that may come after this. Also, we're also looking at also this girl has lost time in school because she has dropped out of school. Then again, that is also some years left, trying to see how we can be able to help this girl parent at the same time continue with her education, because we need to salvage as much time as for this girl. And where I'm still on that point of teenage pregnancy, I think it's important that we become proactive once again as a society, to just start talking about teenage pregnancies and early sex. Let us accept that our children are having sex. Let us preach the message of abstinence more than being faithful, and also more than using condoms to our teenagers. I know I can come to crossfire over this, but as a pastor, I must say the only way we can keep our girls safe is if we tell them abstain until you are of age. Until of age is after university around 24, 25 years. And then now you can think about sex. Because honestly speaking, I don't want to tell our children to use condoms. I don't want to tell them to be faithful. I want to tell them to abstain. And if the boys also help our girls by abstaining, then we shall stop having this menace of teenage girls all over. Interestingly, as we continue having this conversation about teenage pregnancies, is it possible for us also to include our teenage boys in it? Because majority of the fathers to these children are teenagers. So why not have the two parties on board? Let them also be involved in this process of this girl being pregnant and childbearing and the rearing of the last child during the early the childhood stages of 0 to 1 year. And then from there, let us try to see that the society is opening up to these conversations, because I believe knowledge is power. And the more we empower our girls, the more we will be able to see these issues of teenage pregnancies going down. Now, when I come to our youths, and I think the question was, what are some of the you asked about youth and challenges, yeah?
Yeah.
I, I, I think it would be a question of, first of all, trying to see as a nation whether we are creating employment opportunities for our young people. I believe we are a growing economy, and in each and every growing economy like Kenya, although we are a developing nation, it is important also to understand as the nation develops, also so does our over 70% of our population as a nation is our young people, our youth. So the question of unemployment being not being able to be addressed as a critical issue within the nation, that should number one first be something that we should be amazed at if the government cannot be able to candidly speak about it and say we have a problem. We have a large number of our young people who are unemployed. Because what happens is when we are facing unemployment, not only do we have mental issues like drug and substance abuse, and also the anxiety and depression and suicide due to hopelessness and frustration, but we also have high rate of crime coming in now if we look at the socio-economic issue of it all. Because the more our young people cannot be able to provide for themselves, the more they start going into crimes that will help them sustain themselves. That's why when we see Gen Zs coming into the streets and demonstrating, and we hear here saying that they are unruly and they have been brought up badly, it's because this is the only form of expressing the frustration, the anxiety, the fear, the anger, and all these are emotions that come about because these people feel we are educated, we have what it takes to run this nation, but we do not have to put our efforts or our expertise in. So probably this question of unemployment goes beyond the mental health issue. First of all, because even if we address mental health among our young people, and we are not addressing the root cause of the mental health issues among our young people, we are not addressing this issue at all. It is easy to come and it is easy to prune a tree, but if the problem is at the root, the tree will never, even if you spray foliar for those who do agriculture, and the problem is the root, the leaves will never be green. They will always see there is a problem. So our root cause of
Yeah.
mental health majorly among our young people is the issue of unemployment. So we need to start looking out for them. What are some of the cottage industries that we can put up for? What are kind of the markets that we can open up for them to export the products? I think Kenya has a lot of young, aggressive people who have a lot of potential, and we have a broad market. Even in East Africa, I don't think we can sustain the market that we have for the products and the industrious mind we have for our young people. So, as much as I, as a psychologist, I want to talk about mental health about our young people, and I know we are trying to salvage as many people as possible. But can the government kindly come in and provide a lasting solution to this issue? So let's look into that hopelessness, which is partly why they are going into crime, partly why they are going into alcohol, partly why they are going into drugs. And then there are times when you have been seeing in our news, our young people are being told to get married. They are getting married to feed their children. What? So now you are saying the mental health issues will spiral up again now because now a young man has a wife who has a child who are looking up for someone who doesn't have a job. That's why you're seeing people waking up one morning and shooting a whole family and people die. So it's not something that can just be taken lightly. We need to address the root cause for our mental health issues among our young people, which is majorly unemployment. Thank you, Blessing.
Welcome. Great. So, what you said really shows how interconnected these challenges are in when it comes to mental well-being. And I think, as you said, it's the responsibility of both the girl and the uh, boy to ensure that they curb or prevent the teen pregnancies. And also, it's also the responsibility of the general society to also come in and help these people and also offer the jobs to ensure that there's no youth and unemployment. So I think that is something that many young people can relate to. So to the next question, from your experience, how important is mentorship in supporting mental health and guiding the young people? Over to you, Mercy. Miss Mercy, can you hear me? Okay, I think there's a bad network from her end, and I think we're going to have to reschedule to another day. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and